All right. Hey, let's get it. Let's get going. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Forget about that. All right. It's time to go over some amazing things. Today, I want to just give a shout out to everybody that's on here. Absolutely outstanding that you guys show up first thing in the morning, 8 a.m., almost sharp because it's now, let's see, 8:06. Had to get that little thing going just to get people energized. Just a quick shout out. What are we going to be talking about today? You look at the title, XRP interoperability is the number one point of today. If you get away and take away anything, we're going to go over regulation. We're going to talk about XRP interoperability. We're going to talk about interoperability between all of the different CBDCs out there, because truthfully, there is so much going on right now in this space. But the one thing that we know, whether it's a digital asset, a stable coin, a CBDC, they cannot coexist unless they operate smoothly, unless there's interoperability. Building all of these different tokens that can't connect with each other, you're going to create a ton of silos. So today we're going to focus on the time that we have together. We're going to go over new regulation proposals in the US from Tom Emmer. We're going to look at new regulation proposals in Europe. We're going to look at new regulation proposals over in Israel. We're going to look at some of the pullback that's going on right now over in Russia. Forget about what's going over in China, because those guys are just steamrolling ahead. There is so much going on right now in this space. Love to see all you guys on here this morning. Now, check this out. Who's got their coffee? Because everything that I just talked about, if you're not drinking your coffee right now, you're here. I don't care if you're on the East Coast, it's 8 a.m. You're on the West Coast, it's 5 a.m. You're over in Europe, Central Time someplace, and it's 3, and it's, I don't know, what, 2, what would that be, like 2 p.m. And then, or 1 p.m., wherever you are, doesn't matter. You could be way over in Australia, New Zealand, over in Thailand. It could be 8 o'clock at night. So get your coffee, because it doesn't matter what time of day it is. Get that espresso. Today's coffee of the day. So I checked out this brand new coffee. It's called Coffee KULT, and coffee with a K, KULT with a K. I ran out of Segfredo, needed to try something new. Haven't tried this one before. Over 10,000 reviews on Amazon. So I said, what the heck? Let's try it out. And you know what? It's actually pretty good. Then I get it here, and I'm looking on the back. It's roasted in Hollywood, Florida. What are the chances of that? Unbelievable. But to all you guys, make sure we got that coffee, because you know what time it is. Do you guys know what time it is? It is go time. Haha, just kidding. All right, so we have a lot to go over, right? Let me pull into the comments here, make sure I'm not missing anything, just to give a few people some shout outs that bounced in here on time. David D, #1 in the chat today, followed by Chip, and then we've got MP, which is great. MP brings up a great point to start off the morning. Talking about XRP, it cannot scale to run an entire economy, which is why they had to create the Flare network. So that's kind of an interesting point, and we can definitely get into that, because there's some pretty amazing things when you look at what's going to be happening with the Flare. If you look at what's going on over in Kava with the DeFi and incorporating, building, in the DeFi space, stable coins on XRP, goes on and on and on and on. The key with all of this is going to be mainstream adoption, and that's what we want to find out about, right? So Then we get into what does MP follow that up with. XRP will never be able to do micropayments if it grows in demand. And this is a tremendous point. So I like kind of starting along this perspective, because what MP is saying, and in my opinion, and take my opinion for what it's worth because it's my opinion, you guys have your own opinions, but I firmly believe that XRP was not made for micropayments. Hence the split off of Stellar with XLM, which their primary mission in their mission statement was to fund micropayments and create a micropayment network to help facilitate banking within the unbanked communities around the world, where XRP was looking at big financial institution, banks, corporate movement. They were looking at big dollar movement economies. So within the economies of scale, then you look at the other side of it, and you look at Stellar, XLM, micropayments, apps to allow people to move, smaller amounts of money. If you want to move $10, $50, $100, that was its entire purpose. Distinction. So love that comment. So we got Annalisa's on here. Good to see you here. Kelly Slade, good to see you on early in the morning. SPF all the way from Australia. Silhouette Park Farm, good to have you here as well. So awesome. So here we got so Coil isn't using XRP. Coil is using XRP for micropayments. I guess my point with all of that is, I believe that the full purpose of the XRP platform with the RippleNet and XRP as its primary token was meant for larger institutional movement. But in the kind of a lack of other options right now as they're building in the space, there's a lot of development that can be done. And I'm not saying that you're not going to see it. I'm just saying the primary purpose of the product was primarily focused in large movement of cash, not small movement of cash. And so, yeah, MP, and good point here. So, kind of as we go through this, Coil actually works with a subscription model. So that's interesting too. That people are actually pumping money into it. Yep, you pay $5 a month. So you are putting, you have larger, volumes, and it is a larger project behind the scenes. It ends up being more of an enterprise solution that builds in the back end. So not saying that you can't have your drops, that are streaming in a micro environment. However, right, you kind of get the point. The purpose. I'm looking at primary purpose, not what people are using it for, like right now with a Coil distinction. So, all right. So let me get into this. Let's start off someplace that is super high level, and then we're gonna drill down. Now, one thing I want to point out, I think this is probably one of the best. If you guys were watching the news over the past week, now this isn't anything new because it happens over and over and over again over the years. JP Morgan is going to pay $1 billion, a $1 billion fine for metal market manipulation. That's huge. That's massive, right? No transparency, no visibility into their activity. $1 billion, and that's amazing. Now, what kind of financials are we looking at with JP Morgan here? Per the article in the New York Post, $2.9 trillion mega bank is close to paying the fee to end an ongoing investigation by the CFTC, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, the Justice Department, and the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, into the bank's alleged manipulation of prices of metals and U.S. Treasury bonds. So this is already a year old, but now they're getting so close to the fine. Now, what have we seen? Also, we've seen other manipulation in the space, and it's amazing where they're moving huge sums. I think it was Wells Fargo just got caught up in something, moving huge amounts of money, which was black market money, fraudulent money, moving it. It's amazing. Deutsche Bank last year got caught up in something. The years before that, I did a whole video talking about all the banks that have been caught up in fraud. Now, why is it, obviously now they're getting caught. However, what is the one thing that we know with the digital asset space that they're all ganging up on within the governments? What is the one thing they look at within the digital asset space? It's trying to prevent fraud. It's trying to look at digital asset not being used for nefarious purposes. All of those good things, right? So now we're seeing the banks, which we know, I mean, the banks have been tied up in this stuff for so long, but now to shine a light on it, why is it happening right now? Why is it so timely that this stuff is happening? And so it's really impressive, amazing. So if you look back into the video that I did the other day, and we're kind of drilling through a lot of the things from a regulation perspective, what's going on with the OCC, what's going on with allowing federal banks to custody, federal banks to hold reserves for stable coins. We're moving in a specific direction right now, and it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. When is all of this going to happen? Same thing with CBDCs, the central bank digital currencies. It's not a matter of if we're going to see central bank digital currencies take root. It's a matter of when are they going to take root. The big point, which was what we started with, is interoperability. So there's only one company that is currently focused on interoperability. There's only one current digital asset that had a primary purpose built within it, already inherently built in, in the coding, which was interoperability. Not just interoperability of digital asset, but interoperability of fiat and digital asset. So why is it so important? As we go back, you have a lot of the Bitcoin maxis ganged up on XRP, and why do we put so much heavy focus right now in time on our channel? Again, re-emphasizing XRP, because XRP and RippleNet with Ripple is really the only digital asset right now today that, in my opinion, is interesting to talk about from a regulatory perspective. Now, there's a ton happening in DeFi, which is unbelievable. I mean, absolutely unbelievable. And I'm trying to wrap my head around the whole DeFi space and understand it more so that I can bring it to video, so that we can talk about it. I need to have personal experience with DeFi and trying to look and see, okay, with the what is it called now? Yield farming. So within the yield farming, I was reading an article yesterday within the DeFi space, gains of over 3,000% in yield farming with DeFi. But it seems like there's still a lot of high risk. So there's some interesting things happening in DeFi. Kava Labs with Harvest.io getting into DeFi soon, and harvest yielding. And so I believe that there's ways to make money in the space. There's a lot of amazing projects out there that are taking root. But when we look at it from a regulatory perspective, what's going to drive future global economy, none of these other digital assets really fall into play other than one, which is XRP at this moment. And we could be completely off base with this, but and trying not to read in between the lines, but when you see a company, RippleNet, that is sitting at the table with all the large banking institutions and those regulators that are in control and in charge of the banking institutions around the world, again, then you know that something is happening. There's some involvement at that point. The other point here is that Ripple is the only organization that has a heavy focus on getting clear regulatory regulation passed within the U.S. Now, there's other organizations that are doing it, but when you look at it from a banking industry perspective, their primary focus is how can we make sure that banks are utilizing the RippleNet solution, their ODL solution, and getting full regulatory clarity. So what are they doing behind the scenes to make this work? And that's the big purpose. That is, the idea here and why we're talking about X, not because I've seen some of the comments here, oh, they're, these guys are XRP fanboys. They don't know what they're talking about. You got to look at it from a factual perspective. So anything that we ever bring on the channel on the chain is always going to be emphasized, by factual perspective. There might be some opinion, some, sprinkle in a little bit of hopium, but that's not the focus. A lot of other channels, all they will do is focus on hopium, and they're always looking and trying to read in between the lines that don't really exist. Here, we're always going to go through it and look at this from a factual perspective. And that's why regulation is so critical, because we have to look at it from a global regulatory perspective to truly understand what's happening over here. So, here's XRP mantra. I hope I can spend my XRP straight up anywhere in the world is legal tender. And so that's important, and I don't know, I don't know if it's going to end up being legal tender or if it's going to be what's powering the back end. So we might enter into a world where legal tender are stable coins. Legal tender is CBDC. However, maybe not. Maybe we're living in a different world. We see Congressman Darren Soto on his webpage to fundraise is accepting digital asset donations through BitPay. I'm sure it's being converted over to fiat currency. I highly doubt that through BitPay he's accepting digital asset into his campaign. I'm 99.9% sure through it he's taking it in fiat. However, the point is that he's allowing people to transfer money through their digital asset over to him. That's a big change. We saw it a couple years ago. Ohio was allowing people to pay their taxes using BitPay, also in digital asset, because they understand that people are holding digital assets. They've made money with digital asset. They don't want to convert it over when they can just seamlessly do it through a BitPay and have full transaction here. Now, what's the one problem with all of us? What's the one problem? If you have a digital asset right now today, what is going to happen when you convert that digital asset? You're going to pay taxes on that digital asset when it's converted. So just like if you had a stock right now today, you can't go and pay a bill with a stock. You can't go buy a car with a stock. You can't go, donate to Darren Soto with a stock. You have to sell it first. If you have gain on that stock, on that security, you're going to pay taxes on that gain. Right now, the same thing with the digital asset. If you convert it into another digital asset under a fiat, whatever acquisition cost you had on that digital asset to the point where you sold it, you're either going to have a realized gain or a realized loss, and your taxes are going to reflect accordingly. So let's say you got paid in Bitcoin, and now you've reported that Bitcoin as income, and you've already paid income tax on that. Now you go over and you want to pay something else with it. As soon as you go and pay a bill or buy something with it, and it's converted then into a fiat currency, then you're paying tax on that transaction again. You get double taxation. So that's where, the framework is a little bit uneasy and a little bit broken, which is interesting because, and let me bring this up right now, and then we're going to get into what's going on in the US from a regulatory perspective. But there's one country right now that I think is really getting ready to make some changes, but we're seeing this all over the world right now. As soon as the bigger economies or the Western economies or pretty much any country at this point starts making some regulatory framework around this, then it sets a precedence and other countries begin to follow suit. But this one was big. This one was on Cointelegraph a couple days ago. But the point of this is this is over in Israel. Now, Israel has struggled a little bit in the regulatory space with digital asset, as have other countries. But here it says Israeli regulators propose Bitcoin be taxed as a currency, not as an asset. So you see the ramification of what that means is that you are now not going to have to pay tax every time you transfer a digital asset. Now, here they're only focused on Bitcoin. However, I think it has to change. So here, this comes directly in this article. They're quoting another news outlet over in Israel, which is called Globes, but they have a Knesset member. The Knesset is their parliament. Member of Knesset or member of parliament, Oded Ferrer, and another one, Soba and Milanovsky and Kushner. they proposed, this was just on September 22nd, so we're talking about this past week, that the government body amend existing tax law so that digital currencies like Bitcoin, so now they're talking about all digital currencies, would not be subject to capital gains taxes. So as we're saying, you move Bitcoin into Ethereum, Bitcoin into fiat, Bitcoin into XRP, you are going to pay a capital gain tax if you've had a gain. Now, you can't have that. You should be able to move your currency into another currency without paying tax every single time just because there's a change in valuation. So they're trying to figure out exactly what the ramification of that would be, because if you're doing it from an investment perspective, I'm putting my Ethereum into Bitcoin because I'm expecting my Bitcoin to jump up in gain. Is there a valuation of Bitcoin to Ethereum? Is that how they're doing it? Or am I investing in the Bitcoin in order to make that gain and transferring it back into something else? Similar if you were playing in the FX market. But if I go out and buy a whole bunch of euro right now, and I hold the euro in hopes that the euro to dollar ratio changes and gains, and I make money that way, it's a big conversation. But here it says, under current income tax policy, Bitcoin is treated as an asset and taxed 25% whenever individuals convert their token into fiat. That's over in Israel, or 15% for short-term lenders. So obviously their tax regulation is a little bit different. However, the point is that they're going after the fact that there's capital gains taxes charged every time you convert your digital asset into something else, and they want to change that. So it says the regulatory reality in Israel is not adapted to the existing reality in the field. That's what the bill stated. Digital currencies will continue to be a growth engine that allow the Israeli high-tech industry to flourish and develop. So what are we seeing here? Why is this significant? What is the point that they're making? Is that the regulation is holding back the growth of this space. Israel, the US, Europe, anywhere in Europe, most countries in Europe, Asia, everybody's identified and recognized the fact that this blockchain space, this digital asset space, this fintech space, however you want to look at it, is a very, very important space right now for the future growth of the economy. What is the one thing that Alex Mashinsky, when he was on our show, he's the CEO of Celsius, the one thing that he said that really stood out to me significantly was that the titans of tomorrow, the business leaders of tomorrow in the financial industry are going to be different than those that controlled the industry, the economic financial industries yesterday. This is the tide. Everything is switching right now. So we're seeing the legacy platforms are beginning to realize, or they're recognizing the fact that this blockchain space, this digital asset space, is confronting them on their home turf that before they had nobody. There was nothing in existence unless it was another bank that somehow moved up the ranks through acquisition to compete. JP Morgan's where it's at. Wells Fargo's where it's at. Deutsche Bank is where it's at. I'm sure, there's countless banks around the world, SBI, and many others. And we can go on and on that list that have been there for generations. They've been there for so long that, they've got, they're solid. But now, as we move forward, especially coming out of this, economic, global economic issue that we're facing, there's going to be some monumental changes. Not just that just sped up the process. But if you go back when the initiation of Bitcoin in 2010 forward, RippleNet 2012, XRP, then Ethereum, then all these other digital assets moving into this financial space, the writing was on the wall. The banks were being a little resistant. The financial institutions a little resistant. However, with RippleNet, and this is why, again, it's really important and significant, that was the first impetus of them actually getting involved in a space that incorporated digital asset, R3 with Corda. But now, then we saw JP Morgan trying to, dabble a little bit in their coin, their JPM coin. not successfully. And then, and they were creating an internal silo. And then we have this big conversation about CBDCs. Now we have a big conversation about stablecoin. Now it's interesting because, again, this goes back to XRP. And why are we talking about it now? Not because of the hopium that you see on a lot of these other YouTube channels that aren't really digging into fact. They're just looking for hidden messages in stuff that doesn't exist, when you can look at the reality on the ground and come up with a solid opinion that XRP is the only digital asset that's being applied and utilized right now within the financial institution and banking space. And that's why, it's important to talk about it. That's why there's some significance behind it. Now, a year from now, there could be a completely different mindset. However, there's no interoperability, and that's the key, right? That is the key for everything. Now, if we go back, let's see, to September 26th, I'm going to turn to the chat here in a second. You guys are having your own inner chats. September 26th. So, well, look, today's the 26th. Look at that. So, there's an article from today. But the title, it says 4 days ago. Oh, the art, they got me on this one. All right. Okay, they didn't date the article the right way. So anyhow, it's a changing date. But the title of this article, this was on Bitcoin.com. Execs managing $78 billion in assets, $78 billion, say institutional investors plan to allocate more cryptocurrencies. This is big. This is really, really big. Again, this isn't a matter of if, it's a matter of when, because things are moving, things are happening. Now, this was great. This is also on the 24th. There's an article written by James Wallace. This happened to show up on the Ripple.com insights right on their website. Interoperability will determine CBDC winners and losers. That's clear. You don't have any. We don't have to get into this whole article to understand what the significance of that means. Without interoperability, your CBDC is going to crash and burn, and it's not going anywhere, right? So let me go up here. There's been a ton of conversation up here. I just want to shout out. There's some new people in the chat that I haven't seen for either a while or at all. But Obi-Wan, hello there. Kenobi, what is up? If you're the same Obi-Wan from Florida, what is up? Barbara Taylor is drinking Black Rifle today. Another new one, KOFFEE KULT, K coffee with a K and Cult with a K. Here we go. So this is Obi-Wan over here. Is XRP a security or a currency? Someone needs to step forward because no one is comfortable using a token that has no legit designation. Everyone knows this is the biggest holdup. Once that comes, utility comes. That's a great point. And from a banking perspective, they don't want to get caught up in moving a security. Ripple has stated very clearly that XRP is not a security. And so now it becomes is it a utility token? Is it doing something else? We know that it's a great, on the back end, it's really significant, really important. But that's a great point. I'm just driving up here. Let's see. Can take off without CBDCs. Here we have David the Amazer. DeFi can take off without CBDCs. DeFi in the decentralized financial space doesn't really need the CBDC to make its movement, because we're starting to see the DeFi space develop. The question is, if there's holes in this DeFi space, what is going on with that? Is there some issue within the decentralized space that can cause issue? And that's it's so new. There's so much money that is being generated right now. It's crazy. I just got a message here that just popped up here. So we have one of our subs here, SPF Silhouette Park Farms, is a few subs from 1,000 in order to monetize his channel. He does a lot on his channel, some great stuff over there. If you guys could, you know, help out and get him to 1,000, that would be awesome. I think Chip threw a link right to him in the conversation, so that could be really cool to help out with that. I'm just going through some of the others here. All right, you guys are having a good conversation. I saw something and went and it's gone. I was trying to find it. So, but anyhow, so if we get into this conversation about interoperability, again, Ripple interoperability will determine the CBDC winners and losers, and it's so spot on, you know. And here's a you know, a point. You know, there's some. It's interesting because so much of this conversation now is cemented around this issue that we've faced recently, and you know, what's the deal with that? You know, what are we really, you know, focused on as to why, you know, why, you know, the whole, you know, what has, you know, the last 6 months really done? And what it's done is really forced this issue of the central bank digital currency, but not so much that, it's the digital currency. It's highlighting digital currency and a move away from legacy fiat. Now, just the other day on a video, I was talking about this exact point, that even within the US, they've seen a pullback in the utility of fiat currency. We've seen a spike in the utility of credit cards. You've seen a decrease in the utility of ACH, which in the US, it used to be referred to as the America's Clearinghouse. Now I think it might just be the Clearinghouse, similar to a SWIFT, but only for domestic transaction in the US. So whereas SWIFT used for global, ACH, or for international, ACH used for domestic. Now, even that, you know, saw a pullback. So can ACH even suffer? Because if they see a decrease in utility, now that's a private organization, can they suffer and also then become susceptible to takeover by the digital asset space? Or do they get involved and somehow move? Because right now, even as you're moving money into these digital exchanges, if you're doing it from your bank, you still have to go through ACH. So maybe ACH needs to be digitized. There needs to be a digital ACH. Now, is RippleNet and the solution that Ripple has been putting together for international transaction, for international remittance payments, is that ODL solution also viable in the domestic space? And I believe it is. Well, what's the difference? You know, why wouldn't we have a domestic exchange or a global exchange that is participating in the ODL? Let's say it's Uphold. Let's say it was Coinbase. Let's say it was Gemini. Let's say whatever it is. But let's say there's multiple exchanges in the US that also will facilitate the working with the RippleNet for ODL for domestic transaction. Or do you not even need that and you build a platform? But I think that ODL aspect is really critical to the overall conversation. As you're moving money, there has to be you know, some relationship within the exchange, within the banks, that allow and facilitate this. Once that happens, then ACH is susceptible. We already know that SWIFT is susceptible because SWIFT isn't a settlement solution. SWIFT has only been a messaging solution, which is the initial one of the aspects of the RippleNet solution is messaging, but it's only just a fraction of it. And now, as you see, RippleNet is so much bigger, you know. And so here it says, so with the pandemic also encouraging the use of touchless payments instead of cash, it's no surprise to see central banks around the world racing to cement their perspective on the issuance of central bank digital currencies. This is right from the article on Ripple. Governments that once viewed digital assets as a threat now see how companies like Ripple are working closely with traditional financial institutions to develop efficient, innovative global payment solutions that directly benefit businesses and individuals. So again, 6 months ago, the governments are like, oh, wait, no, not going to happen. We don't want to dabble in this digital asset space. We're comfortable with our legacy. We don't want to give up the sovereignty of our currency. CBDCs are too far. No, we're not going to do it. We'll dabble, we'll look, whatever. Now all of a sudden, the whole conversation changes, right? So the governments, the financial institutions, they're looking around like, holy crap, what do we do? And then if we create the CBDC, what good is it? Look what China's doing. China's fully centralized, trying to dominate things from a financial perspective. How do you take them on? Well, you create a CBDC. You create you create regional sovereign currencies. However, interoperable, right? They have to be interoperable. They have to work together. There has to be a solution with this. Look at the USMCA, the US, Mexico, Canada Accord that passed this past year. How significant is the USMCA to the trade bloc in Central and North America? Now, if you can incorporate some other countries, eventually allow the USMCA to create another accord from a trade perspective, imagine you have a fairer, trade currency or a trade solution, or you have the interoperability of everyone's central bank digital currency and the trade and trying to dissolve the vast fluctuations in domestic currencies, trying to create, when they talk creating a level playing field, it's not bringing the top down, it's about bringing the bottom up. So that's a complete different mindset that you'll see in most places where they believe, and you see that highly clarified in the political debates that are going on in the US right now, whereas one group believes in bringing the top down through overtaxation, and the other group believes in bringing the bottom up through free enterprise zones and trying to help create wealth. And that's all over the world. So you see that struggle. You want to see people being brought down to level the playing field to people down here to make that gap smaller? Or would you prefer to bring the people up? India is a perfect example. India has huge disparities, huge, massive. There's 1.2, 1.3 billion people. The 2, 3, 400 million people at the top, 500 million at the top, it gets smaller and smaller. But that wealthy class, like 200 million people that are wealthy in India, 400 million in the middle class, and then everybody else is in poverty. Those are huge, staggering number. You're talking about like 700 million people, twice the size of the US, in poverty. Now in India, what is their objective? Is their objective to penalize the people at the top and bring them down? Or are they trying to develop their country and bring the people up? And that's exactly what a lot of the initiatives have been, maybe not fast enough, is to bring people up. Now, what is the point of the digital asset space and the blockchain space? Is it to punish the people at the top, or is it to help benefit the people at the bottom and give them an opportunity to move up? Now, that's the focus. That's the distinction. And when you get into this decentralized, economy, when you get into the democratization of the economy, when we look at democratization of an economy, we're not looking at punishing people at the top. Do people do things wrong? JP Morgan, Amazon, Facebook, whatever. Are they doing things that are detrimental to society from an economic perspective? And should they be punished for the detriment that they cause? So is Amazon manipulating prices? Is Amazon selling fake product on their websites? Is Amazon looking for the cheapest product to sell and making sure it gets charged at a higher price point and trying to manipulate pricing while they're crushing other businesses? Even though we all use Amazon, but that is the existing business model of Amazon. Is Amazon utilizing their voice activated solutions in your house, like the Alexa? Are they utilizing that to listen in and collect data? Is Google utilizing their platforms to collect data on people and always listening in on the devices? Is JP Morgan doing things that are fraudulent and corrupt? Is Wells Fargo doing things that are fraudulent and corrupt? Is Deutsche Bank doing things that are fraudulent and corrupt? Yes, all of that's true. And so, how does that impact people at the bottom? It impacts them immensely, right? So we don't punish everybody that has an opportunity to make money and try to force the people at the top down and destroy other people's livelihoods in order to maybe bring people up, because we know that doesn't work. We've seen throughout history, when you attack people at the top, then all you're doing is creating more problems for the rest of society, right? So that's the democratization of an economy. The movement within blockchain and digital asset is that it's an opportunity right now to change the leaders of tomorrow, change the leaders of today from those of the leaders who controlled from yesterday, through a democratization of an economy, through transparency of transaction. It's amazing what can happen right now, right? I mean, this is like, it's truly, unbelievable, what's available to people. And I think that is like the primary point of what needs to happen. And so, when we're starting to see this, the changes. So that's why this statement, going back, I know I kind of segued off a little bit, but when you start seeing this movement into the central bank digital currencies, there's a reason why governments and financial institutions, now they're more open to seeing that they need that, because they've also now seen, oh my God, we got to try to consolidate our power position. And if we don't adapt to the central bank digital currencies, others will. If we're late in the game, it's going to disrupt our power hold globally or regionally, economically speaking, or just nationally. So like India's been fighting back. They're very, very resistant to the digital asset space because they have huge fluctuations in the rupee, always have over the years. And so there's a lot of dynamic that's going on there. And so countries also realize that if you allow the adoption of these digital assets, it does have a potential direct impact on their sovereign currency, which if the sovereign currency goes down, it impacts a lot from a national perspective. So there's a very fine balancing act that you need to have in order to, balance that out. So that's really critical. Ferdy, appreciate that. Boom, there's Ferdy. Ferdy, what is up? So, let's see. I don't know. I'm kind of like bouncing in the middle, but unless your crypto is in a hold period, when you purchase off exchanges, never keep it there. There were some issues that just happened. We saw Coinbase was getting attacked recently. It's going to happen. We have a lot of growth in this space that's going on. But check this out. Let's move here. This is important. Like right now, Congressman Tom Emmer introducing legislation that is promoting the growth of the digital token business in the US. That's the title from the Chamber of Digital Commerce. Now, this is important because we've seen Darren Soto trying to pass some legislation. There was some new legislation. They amended it and took out what he had added to the legislation. And I thought it was huge. It was for AI. Then they added digital asset. Then it looks like it was removed. The latest update that I read, it wasn't there, and it was supposed to be there. But everything that happens seems to get stuck in Congress. There are those within Congress, because the lobbyist organization on the banking side is so strong that they've been resistant. Now, 6 months in, the focus on CBDCs and stable coins. Kraken, they just got their banking licensing in Wyoming. The writing is on the wall. These banks can't resist any further. JP Morgan getting smacked with a $1 billion fine. Guess what? This is now, you can't keep your eyes shut any longer. So those in Congress, I don't care what their political agendas are. I don't care how self-serving their political agendas are. They can only keep their eyes closed to reality for so long until they get smacked upside the head. And a lot of times that's what it requires, is to have news like this smack them in the face to where they wake up. Now, Tom Emmer's bill is so critical. And I know from an international perspective, you guys are like, who the hell is Tom Emmer? He's a Republican from Minnesota. Now, this conversation of digital asset application in Congress from a regulatory perspective is bipartisan, nonpartisan. Now, you guys have to understand that it doesn't matter whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. It has to happen, and they have to come together. That's why Darren Soto, a Democrat, Warren Davidson, a Republican, understood that so clearly when they came together for the Token Taxonomy Act. Tom Emmer understands it clearly that you need to have others within the space that are going to help push this. Now, let me just read this beginning part of this, and then we're going to move on. But there's a lot that they want to change from a security perspective and from a commodity perspective. But here it says here, co-chair Tom Emmer, co-chair of the Congressional Blockchain Caucus, and understand that Congressional Blockchain Caucus, and ranking member of the House Committee on Financial Services. That's important. FinTech Task Force introduced the Securities Clarity Act of 2020, which proposes amending federal security laws to distinguish between investment assets that are part of an investment contract and securities. Simultaneously, ranking member Mike Conaway from Texas, Republican, House Committee on Agriculture, introduced the Digital Commodity Exchange Act of 2020, which proposes developing a federal network for the prudential regulation of token trading platforms, among other things, under the CFTC's supervision. And then it continues here. The bills are intended to work in tandem to promote the growth of digital tokens and blockchain development in the U.S. by tackling challenges blockchain innovators are facing from different angles. Then it finishes here. Each bill is discussed in further detail below, blah, 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 whatever. Okay, so then they get into them. The Security Clarity Act, creating a new term, investment contract asset, and excluding it from the definition of a security, defining investment contract asset as an asset, whether tangible or intangible, including assets in digital form, sold or otherwise transferred, or intended to be sold or otherwise transferred, pursuant to an investment contract, and that is not otherwise a security. So there's a ton there. And then the 3 points from the Digital Commodity Act from Tom Emmer. The DCEA seeks to reduce barriers for token trading platforms by supporting 3 primary objectives. Permitting token trading platforms, referred to as digital commodity exchanges, DCEs, to be supervised by the CFTC under a voluntary registration scheme, allowing DCEs to offer services nationally without obtaining a money transfer license in each state. That's so significant because what happens with these exchanges? They get caught up. They don't open in Florida. They don't open in New York. And New York is very strict with their bid license. Why? It's all about the money. That's all. That's the regulation is all about charging. It's pay to play in New York. That's all. That's what it's about. So this bill is going to get rid of that. The next point, enabling trading of certain digital tokens offered as part of an investment contract pre-sale by allowing CFTC registered DCEs to list pre-sale tokens that are not securities. This is really, really important. Creating a regulatory framework for DCEs to trade leveraged finance or margin transactions, real commodity transaction, and gives the CFTC discretion to develop rules related to disclosure, record keeping, capital margin, other financial resources, reporting, business conduct, and documentation of these activities. Forget about that. But it's so critical, what they're talking about. It's amazing. It's a game changer. It really is. This is the next step. This is where things are moving, right? This bill. So we have, now there's so much conversation that's been discussed over this bill to where it's going to allow the crypto exchanges to fall under a national framework instead of a state-by-state framework. Boom, it blows up, right? So even with banks, they're very specific state-by-state. With these exchanges state-by-state, investment state-by-state. Now it's like, let's put it under a national. We need to focus on how do we get us from here to 100, 0 to 100. How do we make this happen? How do we create a clear framework for the digital asset space? Why are they pushing aggressively now? The writing is on the wall. This is the way to move forward. The European Commission adopts digital finance package for crypto and blockchain. There's also all this news falling on the same day. Figure that out. September 24th. Huge day for news. All of this news. Boom. Pile it on, pile it on, pile it on. Europe is one step closer to getting a concrete legal framework for digital finance. Europe, the US, Israel, soon to be in the Middle East, because we see a lot of movement, a lot of pieces moving right now. Why is the Israel piece so significant with the UAE and Bahrain? Because of the fact that the borders are being set right now. The borders are being drawn for the new economic Cold War that is going to start. And so within these borders, what do we have? We have China, maybe Russia influence within China, but China is looking for their dominant position. The US is looking for their dominant position. Europe is looking for their dominant position. The Middle East is going to become a powerhouse, an economic powerhouse above and beyond the transaction of oil. The Middle East knows, right? Dubai has proved that you have to move beyond oil. Partnering, getting rid of all the issues within the Middle East region and allowing Israel to coexist with the UAE and Bahrain and soon Saudi. So as soon as you get that tight economic bloc situated, you're going to see a growth in the Middle East that's never been seen ever in history. And it's going to be unbelievable. And so what happens when you consolidate these economic blocks, it benefits the entire world. Now, in order for these economic blocks to be successful, it goes back to what we talked about in the beginning, which are the CBDCs, right? The interoperability, sorry, not the CBDCs, but it goes back to interoperability of the CBDCs, because you're going to have sovereign CBDCs, you're going to have regional trade CBDCs, and then you're going to have global trade. So are you going to have, what is the CBDC from a region going to be? Let's say you have the Asiatic digital asset. You're going to have the America digital asset for seamless trade within the Americas, because it's going to be easier. You're potentially going to have a Middle East, a trade asset. So that you're seamless. It becomes instant and it's stable, because it's a stability. It's a regional stability. You want inter-regional trade is very important. It's not just about jumping over the oceans. Think about regions and how important it is for the economics of the region to be coalesced together. China sees it. They had the Belt and Road Initiative that they've been working on for years to control the economies of the region. So think about that. Think about what it means to have a communist country that is going to control the economies of a region. And then look out, right? So again, you have the Americas, South America, Central America, North America needs to be an economic powerhouse. We got to get our house in order in the Americas. Europe needs to get their house in order, the differentiation of all the issues within the economies. The Middle East is getting their house in order and allowing, certain frameworks. But you have despot nations within all these regions that are going to have to be dealt with, right? You have Iran, you have Venezuela, you have North Korea, you have Russia. So where are they going to be included? Are they going to be included in a China bloc that controls Asia? Are they going to be incorporated into an America bloc? Or are they going to be excluded? What happens when you get excluded from the digital economy of the future? Think about that. What happens to Venezuela when there's an American bloc, Central, North, and South, coalescing together for trade to boost everybody up, and Venezuela is no longer part of it? What happens when North Korea is excluded from the Asia bloc and they can only coalesce? And so you have some of the Western thinking countries in Asia that are going to coalesce and partner in their own Asiatic bloc led by India to take on China. Think about the significance of what all this means. So I think that's a perfect spot to leave off. You guys are absolutely amazing. Sorry I didn't get to everybody in the chat or get to the chat a lot, but there was just so much to discover, to cover. It's crazy. This is the space. It's not when, or it's not if, it's just a matter of when. This is Jeff. You guys are here with a HODL review exclusively on the chain. Go down below, go down below. You'll see some of our favorite coffees over there. You can even buy on the chain a coffee if you wanted to support on the chain. That's up to you guys. But, check out, I put some links. Oh, yeah, I was bad-mouthing Amazon, but there's some links to some coffees that we like. I haven't put this new one on there yet, but I'll put a link to that one next time. That one is awesome. Every one of those coffees, I love them. So go check those out. DNI is in the house with us. He was lurking in the background. Good to have you here. Good to see you here, DNI. Good to have SPF. Make sure you guys go check out Silhouette Park Farm. Get him over the 1,000 sub mark. That would be awesome. And let me finalize this by saying thank you to everybody on the chain right here. Boom, went over 5,000 subs the other day. Fantastic. We are so excited to be over that 5,000 sub mark. The next goal is 10,000. We can get there. You guys can help us get there. Our chat is the best chat other than DNI. Our chat is the best chat anywhere in this space. I love to see the chats. I love the energy, and I love the intelligence that come into our chat. You guys make our streams what they are. Without you, there would be nothing. So that's it. You guys, 4 to go. Come on, there's somebody here. We got 73 people. 4 more. Get over to SPF and help them out. That would be awesome. Until next. Oh, wait. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m., we are going to have the CEO of Cinnamon, the Cinnamon streaming platform. They're going through some changes right now, but the CEO, Robert, I can't pronounce his last name, not going to butcher it here. The CEO on the roundtable with us tomorrow night at 8 p.m. It will premiere. We'll be on doing the chat, and that's going to be an awesome one. So get back on here with us, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the chain. Hit that sub button. There's some new people in there. Hit that sub button. Make sure we get some thumbs up. I'm over my time. Actually, I'm under my time because we didn't even go an hour. I got to get out of here. Where is the out? It's not here. Look at that. We can't even get out of here. You guys are going to have to stick it out with me forever because I can't find the out. Nope, there it is.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.